Hi, welcome to a new episode of What's Going On. Today we have a very special guest I'm really excited to have here on the show. Many of you know in the city of New Carlisle and throughout Clark County, Mr. Bob Bender, former city manager of New Carlisle. Bob, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. So there's a couple of reasons why I wanted to have you come on the show. Again, so many people know Bob and the things he's accomplished and done for our area and community. But I just, up until recently, I didn't know some of these questions myself, so I wanted to kind of invite Bob on and go over some of these things and just, get a little bit more familiar with him for those who know him but maybe not know the full backstory of Mr. Bender. So, yes, thanks for coming.
Yes.
You started off in the Navy, correct?
I did. I joined in 1978. I was a equipment operator in the U.S. Navy Seabees.
Okay, and I was going to say there's equipment operator. There was the word for him was Seabees.
Well, that was one of the Seabee ratings, was equipment operator.
Okay.
And I was in for 20 years.
Okay.
Retired in 1998.
Why Seabees?
Always
Ocean,
liked working outside.
Navy, right?
Always liked working outside. Always liked working with my hands.
Okay.
And when I found out about the Seabees, I thought, boy, that's for me. And
right.
So I joined, and that was a great career.
And that was from 78 to 98, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Now, you after you'd gotten out of the Navy, you moved here to New Carlisle, but there's something I had to ask you about that I'd gotten wind of. I was supposed to ask you about Kings Bay, Georgia, and something involving a semi and some bushes.
Oh, you must have heard that from Howie. It's kind of hard to back up a semi with a heavy equipment on the back when you're stuck in a cul-de-sac. I took out somebody's bushes.
Yeah, he said
in the middle of the night.
He said Bob was trying to make it around a turn. He probably, I can't remember exactly, but he said it was a turn that truck probably shouldn't have been on. And he said you annihilated a few bushes.
I took out a few bushes. Yeah, maybe a mailbox or two also.
So that was the note I didn't want you to see. So, but yeah, he had me ask about that.
Actually, Howie and I were stationed together.
Okay, well, yeah, he'd mentioned
in Little Creek, Virginia. Yeah.
Right, and that actually the story between Howie and him kind of continue on a little bit further into this. So so you get out of the Navy in 1998. How did you end up in New Carlisle? Because that's when I'd met you, and I didn't realize that you were the service director before the city manager.
Yeah, service director for 4.5 years.
So how did you end up in New Carlisle, though?
Well, it's a long short of it. In 1996 or 97, I was traveling through here, through Ohio, and stopped to visit some friends in Northampton.
Okay.
We stayed a couple of days. I liked the area, and we decided this is where we'll retire to.
Really?
And that's how I ended up here. And,
okay.
And how I ended up in New Carlisle was the second day after I moved here, after I retired. I was coming out of Dayton throwing out resumes.
Really?
And got lost and came into New Carlisle and saw a sign that said municipal offices. So I thought, I got resumes in the car. I filled them out, or dropped one off, filled out an application, and a couple months later, the city manager at the time was James Kaplinger called me.
Kaplinger was the city manager.
I applied to work for the street department.
Okay. And now, was the city building still up here on Church when you came into town?
No, it's where Dr. Davis's office is now.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I was aware of that city building. I just didn't know. I can't remember what time we went from that location to this one. Yeah. So.
Then he hired me in March of 1999.
99 as a service director.
As service director.
Okay. Yeah. So then how did you become going from service director to city manager? Because this, I didn't know. I didn't know about this.
Okay. This is 2003.
2003, you were,
Mr. Kaplinger decided to leave.
Okay.
And council, I didn't even know it, but I got a call that after an afternoon. We had just finished a fundraiser at Silver Lake. The GOBA was coming through here. We did the lunch break.
Yep.
We're raising money for what was then the Salsa Festival.
Right.
And I got a call and said, council wants you to be their city manager. So we talked about it. I told them I'd do it for 180 days. And that's all I wanted to do it because we had all these grant programs going on and we had deadlines. I wanted to make sure that they were followed through.
Okay.
6 years later, I was still city manager.
Still city manager. Yeah. So at what point did you, and I'm still involved with the Heritage of Flight Festival, but I remember the days back when you were, was you the president or was you just the treasurer? Because I remember you were handling kind of the money
Heritage
part.
Of Flight Festival?
Right. Because you were one of the original members.
Well, I'll tell you how that came about. Sally Ratteri and Nona Alford came to me after we finished the downtown streetscape. They said, hey, let's do a festival downtown. let's come up with a theme. Salsa Festival didn't go over so well.
Right.
For people just looked at it differently. But so we actually did a contest. We got a hold of Marshall Gorby too and rolled him into it. Marshall the Gorby.
Marshall the Gorby.
And we did a contest with third graders at Westlake Elementary to come up with a festival name.
Really?
And the two biggest words that kept coming out were heritage and flight. So we thought, and we already had a good relationship with Flying Angels. We thought, let's do the Heritage Flight Festival downtown.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how it started.
Yeah, and Marshall had mentioned me because I had to ask Marshall. I mean, heck, I'd been on the committee for a couple of years, but I was like, how did you guys come up with this name? And he had told me that you guys had, started asking for suggestions, and that's, that was more or less the more popular one. I wish you guys wouldn't have went with it. Don't get me wrong, I love our festival. I love it to death, but it's hard to theme it after. It's, because a lot of times people say, why'd you go with Heritage of Flight? Because Wright Pat's just right up the road.
Well, and more so than that, Barnhart Airport right down here.
Right.
My understanding, the old astronauts used to fly their private planes in there.
Okay.
When they used to train at Wright Pat.
Well, also I think, and I can't remember if I'm right. Maybe you remember, the Andy Barnhart Memorial Airport is the first privately owned airport in the state or county.
I've heard that. I don't
know if it's true, but
sure.
I've heard that. And so but I mean, that is why the festival's tied to flight because of the Barnhart.
Well, and we started, if you remember, we had the Parade of Planes
Right.
for several years.
Oh, yeah.
It just seemed like a natural merger.
Yeah, it worked. I mean, and we moved the Parade of Planes was on the 4th of July weekend, I believe, and
Right.
it was so hot. It was
We had to move it.
It was costing the city a lot of overtime for the city workers and whatnot. And so it did. It worked out great.
It was a great festival.
And it's still going 16 years later.
Dang,
So-
it's been 16 years.
It has been 16 years. When it's funny is I tell people this memory a lot is when I was first on the committee. Well, I got to tell you how I find this funny is how I ended up getting on that festival committee was because of Bender. I don't know if you remember this. The first Heritage of Flight was in Smith Park, and my kids were like,
Right, we had the parade, and then we moved to Smith Park because downtown was not done yet. or
exactly.
something.
So yeah, it was. I don't know what the reasoning was. I wasn't on the committee, but it was in Smith Park. So my kids were like 1 and 2 years old, and we're out at Smith Park for the festival, and we're pushing this cart up and down these hills, and it was just not enjoy. It was just so hard. Acorns all over the ground. It was hard to get around with a stroller. So I remember walking up to you. I was like, Bob, we got to move this thing back to Main Street, and you're like, well, you can't complain unless you're on the committee or something of that nature. And
So
I
you
asked.
want to change it, get involved.
That's what it was. When you want to change it, get involved. So I asked you for the next date of the meeting, and I'm still there 16 years
I
later.
remember that.
So,
I remember that.
oh, you sucked me in, and I haven't got to leave yet. So maybe someday I'll get to take a break from it.
If you look at the ones that started this festival, you guys, you and April, Lowell McLaughlin.
Oh yeah, Bill Barry.
Bobby Moore.
But yeah, a lot
Bill
of
Barry,
the committee was huge.
Spencer, Mark and Kathy Spencer.
Yeah.
The Fleas, Larry Mills and Terry Metz.
They still play every year on Friday night. They don't come to our meetings, but they're just as much of a part of that committee and group as
Mike and Lisa Heitzman.
Yeah, a lot of good people that we've had come and go over the years. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's amazing how many people it's taken to make that festival
I'm
work.
glad it's still going on.
Yeah, me too. So, okay, so you become the city manager, and what did you think of your stint here as the city manager? I mean, you said you didn't want to do it for very long, but it was a challenge because you guys were coming out of a financial problem.
When we took over, we were in fiscal watch. And like I said, we wrote all these grants, and we wanted to follow. I wanted them to follow through.
Yeah.
I was afraid if we hired a new city manager, things would stop until they got on board, and we'd miss some deadlines. So, we had to. We had a lot of challenges when I first took over.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the fiscal watch, we met with the auditor's office. They required us to give them a 5-year plan to get out of it. And we were able to get out of it in 3 years, which was good. And all of our grant programs followed through. The downtown streetscape, new water plant, the multi-use trail.
Yeah, that was a great addition.
Yeah, a lot of good projects we did. But I'm a behind the scenes guy. Just tell me what needs done and let me go do it.
Yeah.
And at some point I thought, we're at a point I can leave.
Right.
And that's when I decided to move on.
Well, it's a lot of work. I mean, obviously I've never been a city manager, but just seeing from, you to Kim Jones and now to Randy Bridge, I mean, I see the amount of work that goes into it from all you guys. And it's a job that'll turn your hair gray quick.
Yeah, see this?
Well, yeah, I've got a few coming. I'm not that far along.
I had color when I started here.
Right. So, but anyway, so then in 2009, you went from city manager to the operations director at I can't say it.
Developmental Disabilities of Clark County.
Thank you. I can't ever get it out.
It used to be called MRDD. That term was done away with, I want to say 2008, I believe, because the word retardation had a stigma to it.
Okay.
So they changed it to developmental disabilities.
Okay.
All county agencies in Ohio became developmental disabilities, no longer MRDD.
Okay. And that was in 2009.
2009
And
when I started.
and you're still currently there.
And I'm still there. Yeah.
So how has that been? I mean, what's some of the high notes, I guess, if you could point out maybe some good things that have taken place while you've been there, or what you've learned from something
Well,
like
I
that.
can not taking anything away from my military time, City New Carlisle time. That's the most fulfilling, rewarding job I've ever had.
Really?
You look at the folks that we serve over there. We serve over 1,100 in Clark County.
Really?
Developmentally disabled adults. If you want inspired, come sit down with them folks every day.
Yeah.
You'll walk away inspired.
Yeah. So unfortunately, you're a sad note. You're going to be retiring soon, correct?
Yes.
And going where?
Going south, going to Florida.
Going to Florida. Yeah. I don't know what I think. I'll just keep my opinions on that one to myself, but I hate to see you go.
Cold weather gets these old bones,
Oh, I know. So, but again, I just wanted to have you on, and for the people that do know you, I mean, I'm sure some of them really know a lot of the details about your life, but those that just know you from the city of New Carlisle, I thought it would be interesting to just hear a little bit about your background and how you came from, the Navy all the way to where you are now. So, anything else you want to add in?
No, I just, this is the longest I lived anywhere in my entire life. It was right here in New Carlisle. I've been here 21 years now. I got a lot of good friends in this county. I've just, it's going to be sad to leave, but at the same time, I know it's time to go. I have family in Florida that I'd like to spend time with.
Yeah.
My dad's still down there. He's 90.
Really?
He says, get down here. He's only living until he's 115.
Oh, geez.
So,
well, you got about 20 years.
Yeah.
So, also, a nod to Candy, your wife.
Yes.
She, I think you just have this aura around you that anybody you get close to, they end up becoming and I didn't know Candy before you guys had got together, but I mean, she's been active in the community as well, helping you with projects. So, to her as well, big thank you to her.
Sure. Well, she's been a big part of, obviously, a big
Well,
part of my life. And,
of course,
we've been partners, since we got married in 2003.
And that's what it takes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's hard to make these projects that you tackle, whether it's city or your current job or festivals or anything like that, without, someone there to be there to support you, your kids.
She'd always put the local perspective into things,
Right.
From growing up here, she
Yeah.
obviously knows a lot more people than I do and knows the mindset.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And before we go, I just, I'll say this is, growing up, when you're, I've lived in New Carlisle my entire life, but, you don't really care about city council or festivals when you're younger. I mean, there are some few, at that young age, but, I didn't really start getting involved until we talked about that time at the festival in Smith Park. And I've said it numerous times and I'll say it until I die. I am who I am, obviously, because my parents and my family, my wife and kids. But, it was, I'll say luck that I got to meet you, Lowell McLaughlin, Marshall Gorby. I mean, those three individuals, I got to meet them and they just put me on the right path to help out and whatnot. So it's, I'm where I'm at today because of, again, family first. But, the guidance I got from you and Lowell and Marshall, I mean, just three great guys. And of course there's others. But, those ones stick out as far as, teaching me about how important it is to be involved in your community and give back and make it what you want out of it. So a big thank you for that, because that's invaluable. It's priceless. So thank you.
And I'm not saying this because he's sitting next to me. I'm very proud of this young man. I remember when he was younger, he used to run around with my son, as a matter of fact.
Yep, Jesse.
Well, back then it was JVS.
Well, oh yeah, right.
Now it's CTC, I think.
Right.
But I've watched him grow and develop, and I'm very proud of him.
Yep. So, well, thank you very much, Bob. I appreciate it. And you and Candy and the entire family, best of luck when you get to Florida. Send us a bottle of sand or something sometime when it's
Come
cold.
visit.
And maybe we'll sprinkle it out here and it'll warm up our temperatures here in Ohio.
Come visit. We'll go fishing.
We will. So thank you again. And
thank you for
again,
having me.
tell Candy we said thank you and best of luck.
Thank you.
All right. And everyone, we'll have another video coming up here in coming weeks, and we appreciate you for watching, and have a good day.